All right, now it is time to get down to the nitty gritty, to the big talking points to set up our final deep dive of our Wednesday live stream. But first, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, join us next week, 9:05 Eastern. Gentlemen, we're gonna shift and focus, and we're gonna take it to the streets. Daredevil, Born Again, resumed filming Monday. This past Monday, 2 days ago. Does this feel like some positive momentum for the MCU, specifically for the street level characters that are now going to be included? Foggy, Karen, Punisher, Kingpin, Matt Murdock, Daredevil, all supposed to be carrying over from Netflix into, at some point, into Daredevil Born Again. Is this positive? Are we heading in the right direction in the MCU?
I want to remain hopeful and say yes. I just feel like it does feel like at least they are trying to listen to fans, and the fact that they are bringing back Karen and Foggy's actors and things like the Punisher, obviously them bringing back, Daredevil and Kingpin. So yeah, hopefully.
It's Spider-Man. I know we've talked about this before, that Daredevil Born Again was supposed to be 18 episodes, but it's come out now that the count of 18 episodes is not guaranteed. Are you buying or selling that they believe that less than 18 episodes is actually going to increase the quality of this series? And here I'll pose that one to you as well.
Buying? No. I don't know. I'm torn.
I'm gonna hold.
I'm just gonna
Yeah, he's gonna hold.
I'm just gonna hold.
I'm gonna hold as well, because I don't necessarily think this is like a show writer thing. I feel like the show writers want to tell the story that they want to tell. I feel like the actors and directors want to tell the story they want to tell. But if you've listened to us for a while now, specifically the last couple of weeks, you know that we are honestly of the thought that Disney is now what is in charge. And I do feel like they care more about budget, especially if Tatiana Maslany's quote from last week stands true about Disney just simply not wanting She-Hulk because of budget reasons. I genuinely think that Disney's putting pressure on them to be like, do this when you can. If you don't need 18 episodes, then let's not. But I do feel like at the same time that at least for this particular project, somebody is championing this project.
Yeah.
Because unlike She-Hulk, and honestly, unlike what I feel like a lot of these other shows have gotten, they don't have a proper champion internally. And while that champion isn't necessarily like out in the open, I think they see enough fan response to be like, okay, no, somebody on the board of directors or something is like, no, guys, we have to get this one right. This is the one we need to do right. And making it longer, maybe for them, is what they're saying, is what we need to do. I do feel like there's a fight going on internally about this. I wouldn't be surprised.
I really agree with that. And part of me felt like, and we've talked about this off screen, where for Daredevil specifically, I think 18 episodes is good because there's a lot of story that can be told and carried over, and characters can be fleshed out and introduced, and they're associated with the title character that is Daredevil, which I think is money right now, right? Almost as much as being an Avenger or being associated with Spider-Man. People have really, really, really good responses and watch projects for Daredevil and Kingpin, as we just saw most recently in Echo. However, if they do take this down to, say, 13 episodes, you figure if they did a part 1, part 2 of 9, I almost think of it like, hey, let's do part 1, but let's add a little bit to it, right? Let's take the core essence of the back half of what we were potentially going to do, trim the fat a little bit, keep out some of the characters we may have introduced, which may or may not be a detriment to the show, but let's keep and build a really strong core for people to rally around. And it's no secret that the groups that are a part of these Daredevil projects, specifically those that were part of the Netflix projects, they're very vocal and very protective of this to say, hey, we've scrapped this once. We went back to the drawing table. It wasn't good enough. We are listening to the fans. We want to deliver the best possible project with some of the most household street level names in Marvel. And if your goal is to ultimately involve Spider-Man, Avengers, Fantastic Four, and really make New York the hub of the street level of the MCU, it begins here. Now, I will say this. If they do only do one season, and this isn't like a Loki 1 and 2, which I think was strong and great, you run the risk of not being able to right some of the overall MCU wrongs. And you got to get it right the first time.
And I think the fact that it's called Born Again shows that this is probably going to be a one season type thing, because the title of Born Again, right? If this was just Daredevil, I feel like they could continue it.
Mm-hmm.
Born Again feels like it's going to be its own thing. And hopefully they keep it going. I would love for them to continue it on and just drop Born Again as the subtitle and keep it going.
Yeah.
But I'm scared that they're really just going to make it a one and done, especially with, I mean, we got the announcement for this show, what, 2 years ago?
Roughly.
I think so.
I mean, it's not new for
Yeah,
sure.
so if they were to do a season 2, realistically for a live action, we're probably not going to get it for another 2 years, which by then means we're even closer to a reboot.
Yeah.
Which will then be a lot harder to keep people's attention. So
We got Daredevil Born Again.
Daredevil Resurrection. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think sounds like it'll go freaking hard.
Dude, honestly, I feel like that's like a one-off movie that was like from an anime. You're like, I don't know. I know
Yes.
Dragon Ball Z's gotten, but it's just like it's going to be in theaters for a limited time. Daredevil Resurrection, or it's a video game. Listen, they could do something really, really, really cool if they wanted to continue this on. And Daredevil Born Again is a focus on the title character. You continue this story, but now Punisher steps into the title role. Daredevil takes a back seat. He's still doing his thing, but Punisher is now kind of the focal point. And like you almost shift, almost like in Spider-Man. Like you can play this as Peter, and then you can play as Miles. You can play as Peter, you can play as Miles. Let's see it through Frank's eyes. Let's see it through Matt Murdock's eyes. I think that would be a kind of a cool dynamic to keep the same feel and run it kind of in parallel without having to time skip or jump here or there or whatever it might be. And, you know, if Kingpin gets busted up in episode 10, then what if Punisher's version of this picks up in episode 4 or picks up in episode 12, right? So he doesn't have to be there. That being said, though, here's the curveball. Bullseye has been announced to be coming back in Daredevil Born Again with actor Wilson Bethel reprising his role. For me, Bullseye and Daredevil for Netflix Daredevil was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Just the backstory, how cool it was. It felt like a good sub-villain, but Kingpin still felt like the main guy. It was interesting, and I'm very excited to see what they ultimately do with him in this series and what version of Bullseye are they going to try to pull off.
I feel like it almost needs to be arch villain Bullseye, where, and I know season 3 has been so long ago from like a casual's perspective, but I do think that because you kind of have this opportunity to introduce that version of Bullseye in particular, now's the time to do so. And it's kind of crazy to say, but I mean, and maybe you guys can throw in your input on this as well. I feel like for the MCU street level to excel where I would say the greater MCU hasn't, maybe from the start, I would say even. I'd go as far as saying that I feel like they need to establish multiple villains being feasibly somebody that can take your main character down and can almost be an arch villain for them in their own right. So I feel like Kingpin needs to be that, and you guys can let me know what you think as well. But Kingpin, Bullseye, it's been rumored for a while now that Muse is going to be the main villain for this show, or a villain in this show. I feel like all three of them, and I know it's kind of hard to pull off if you don't have as much time, but I feel like all three of them need to feel important and scary and just a big bad for Bullseye. Not like, don't have Muse in episode 1 and 2 and then he's done. I think that would ultimately hurt the street level overall if they do something like that.
It's simple for me. I echo everything that you just said. The more that they can put into this and establish and introduce and create a foundation from a villain standpoint, and then move off of them, but not close their chapter so quickly. New York is a big place. There are a lot of villains running around. Villains don't just exist within season 1 and 2. Bullseye can toe the line. He can be who he wants to be in a lot of different ways. I would be very curious to see how they handle Bullseye in this series and how they handle Punisher, because those are two wild cards that they're going to be pushing into the MCU, who can bring absolute chaos and anarchy to the entire thing.
The MCU needs more.
I think the MCU needs, absolutely.
The heroes need it.
Yeah.
And I say that in the sense of like, I genuinely feel like, especially for the street level, your problem should not be fixed in one season. They need to keep going. Bullseye at the end of this, honestly, if you want to establish Bullseye in a casual's perspective, and even in the greater MCU and for more hardcore fans, you have him kill someone incredibly important.
Oh yeah.
You have him kill Karen. You have him kill Foggy.
Yeah.
As heartbreaking as it would be, that's what someone like Bullseye needs to do. So that way, the lasting effect and the problem of Bullseye never goes away for Daredevil. And you keep that up in season 2 if they do it. Or in a movie if they do it. If this is successful enough.
Imagine feeling that this show will give you, just based on these 3 characters. No matter what you do, Kingpin has corrupted it. The water you drink, the food you eat, you never know. You're going to question every bite, every sip. Muse, everyone that you know and potentially love is at risk. You do not want them walking down an alleyway or at night by themselves. You have to be able to protect everyone you know at all times, while also trying to save those you don't know. And then you have Bullseye lurking from a distance, up close, in the shadows, when you're getting ready to go to work, when you're getting home and in your car. You're going to be zigzagging everywhere you go. Imagine the pressure that can put on Daredevil. He can't do that by himself. And he will need help. And the characters that may offer that help, I'm going to be honest, based on these characters alone and knowing that Punisher is going to be in it, I think that they're not going to do it, but I think it would be a massive boost to bring Moon Knight into Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah, that would be so good. They're not going to do it, unfortunately. No. But that would be ideal as your next character that you introduce alongside him.
Yes.
If not Moon Knight, your next best bet could honestly be Luke Cage. I think if you want to introduce, and we talked about this in our Discord, I believe Dylan brought it up actually, Discord OG. Luke Cage is probably your best bet if you do that. I'm just tentative on depending on the timing and how much they have of it.
Yeah, I think an inclusion in Luke Cage means that there's going to be a follow-up. Someone like a Moon Knight can jump straight to movie. And I think you can have Moon Knight kind of be in there sporadically, but really establish who Moon Knight is, given these three characters that we know that are supposed to be in the movie. I mean, what more than protecting the travelers of the night do you need if you have Muse floating around and you have Bullseye around every corner? Like, that literally is the epitome of what Moon Knight can stand for here. And I'm just hoping they slashed episodes so they can add Moon Knight and get Khonshu in there for budget. I don't know. It's wishful thinking that means absolutely nothing, and that's just a hope and a wish and a dream. But
Okay, let's, as we continue deep diving kind of Born Again in the MCU streets, and I'll ask this for both of you guys. What's the storyline that you want them to do? And while you think of it, I'm just going to throw mine out because it kind of came to me. I think Kingpin, as he's running for his mayor campaign, Matt Murdock is somehow, for some reason, put it in for plot convenience here, is actively going against it. And in some sort of a lawsuit, maybe through somebody else, threatens to expose Kingpin and all the lies and stuff that would essentially derail his mayoral campaign. And I think what he should then do is just be like, hey, Matt Murdock needs to be dealt with.
mm-hmm.
It's open season on Matt Murdock. Whoever brings me his head gets whatever amount of money. Bullseye comes out after him, also having the personal vendetta of Daredevil carried over from, the previous season. You have Muse, who's just killing for fun, but also wants it some reason. Then you bring in Jake Lockley, who is a hired killer. And Khonshu is just like, yeah, have fun. And I think you have those three gunning for him. And you have Punisher in the background offing others trying to get to Kingpin because he knows what he is. I think that's the storyline you go with.
I am personally down with that. Like,
Look,
dude, I mean, think about it.
You
do get this, because I think that satisfies all of the stipulations that a good TV show requires, of having those three heroes of like, you should be good, but you're not doing good in Moon Knight, right? Matt Murdock showing who he is, but also there's another side of him, and he's trying to go through kind of like what She-Hulk was doing, of like, your brand of justice through the law. Let's do this the right way. Let's fight Kingpin out in front, and getting the help of Karen and Foggy. And I mean, how dope would it be? Just who's running, that through line, but the Punisher, where he's just cleaning up every single place he goes, and it's just, I love that. Now, here's my only thing that I think. There's two characters that are missing that I think naturally should be in Born Again that won't be in Born Again, most likely. I just find it very hard to not have Jen Walters, She-Hulk, and Maya Lopez Echo in Daredevil Born Again, because of their relationships that they've created in the MCU. That's the continuity piece that I'm like, what was a point? Right? We know we're missing crossovers, and would I rather have Moon Knight or would I rather have She-Hulk and Echo? Get rid of She-Hulk and Echo. I'll have Moon Knight 1,000 out of 1,000 times. And then you kind of have the thing of like, what happens with Elektra, right?
Yeah.
I would almost have Elektra over a Luke Cage or a Moon Knight personally, just simply to get her in the door and see what happens after the fact, because I would like at the end of this, the hand comes back into play. Do I think that they're going to go that far? I don't. I think this stops at Kingpin, runs for mayor to becomes mayor at the end of this. Daredevil gets whooped, Punisher whoops, both of them get whooped, and then ultimately Bullseye and Muse die. Probably what's going to happen. And Kingpin gets busted. It's kind of how I feel like the MCU runs their game.
It'd be a serious disappointment if Bullseye dies, man.
I'd be sad.
Should they keep him? Again, I'm calling a spade a spade. They're going to bring him in, but let's be honest, do we really think he's going to have that big of a role and be that important of a character?
No. As much as I would
so.
love it, but
I don't. Not to be a Debbie Downer.
See, especially with the rumor being only 3 episodes. I think that says it right there. That almost is like the finale or some shit, and he's been doing shit behind the scenes, but I don't know. 3 episodes out of 18 or 13, or it's not a big proportion.
I'll be okay if he plays that hitman role. Again, I like that lurking over the corner. You never know. You live life in a zigzag. That's huge. And he's having a heart-to-heart with Karen or Foggy sitting at a table at a bar, something along those lines, and it's like, boom. There's a little hole in the window, and there's a straw in the back of your head. Like, and there's a note, and he's like, I told you so. Like, I'm close. I'm close to you. I'm close. You don't think I'm close, but I'm telling you I'm close.
I feel like they and I hate doing the Frank Miller comparisons, but just his run is so good, and I think essential to it that if he only comes for one episode, right? Even if it's just the finale, and the finale is just them duking it out for the entire episode, blow for blow, I think they need to do what they do. I think it's in their like first or second showdown in Miller's run, where Bullseye's about to get hit by a train, like he's down and out, and Daredevil thinks about letting the train hit him because he's like, I know what you are, and I know if I let you live, somebody's going to die that's important to me.
Yeah.
But ultimately he saves him.
Yep.
And gets thrown in jail. You know, I think if he comes for one episode, that's what you do. And then you let season 2 be the fallout of that. And you let him escape the thing that everybody knew, but, you know, see how that impacts Daredevil.
Right there is why the focus of this show is establishing the street level version of what is justice. That's what this is. This entire show should be about. What is justice? What is right? What is wrong? Every single character is going to have their own version of what that is.
And I was going to say, I think Muse could be a good villain, because I don't know that much about Muse. I just know he kills people and makes it look artsy. But if you almost twist it to make him like that justified like serial killer who he's like, I killed him because this person was a bad person. This person did XYZ. Should he have lived?
Yeah.
And, you know, have that be the question you play out, and have the question of Kingpin being someone who's like, even if you have his campaign be as open-ended, if he's so blatant about it, to be like, look, I know what I've done. I know the things that I've done are not good. But as mayor, I can bring true justice because I know how to deliver that.
But do you? So here's my question with that, because again, we have the whole backstory of how corrupt Kingpin has been. I think in a couple shows they've shown us where people are kind of against heroes, and that is more of She-Hulk, of questioning, should Abomination be here? Should Jen Walters do this? Should these characters, should the meta-human type of thing be allowed to just walk freely among us? Precursor to the ultimate MCU mutant question: should mutants be able to be among us? But I think Kingpin has to go two ways with this. And I had mentioned this a little bit earlier of, yes, he's only the mayor. Yes, there should be a Skrull invasion. Yes, there should be Avengers levels characters those characters who let Thanos win, right? You lost all of your loved ones because you put hope into heroes. You let people, do this and do that, and Iron Man could do this, and there's a Spider-Man who's running around doing this, and Hawkeye has done this, and vigilantes are running rampant. Take your city back. I will take the city back for you and give you this city. That's where I feel like the core of this is like the Avengers are not here to save you. Where are they? Where were they when your purse got stolen or your car got hijacked or your so-and-so got murdered? Like they were nowhere to be found. But under my supervision, this city will be safe. And here's why. And for me personally, I think that he actually captures the Punisher early on in this show and shows you this man has been a vigilante running amok in your city. And I caught him. And this man's like the skull, the scars, everything. And Matt Murdock has to get him out of prison. That's what I think they should go of, just like, I'm going to make an example of your so-called heroes type of thing. And just be open and upfront about it.
I like that.
I don't know. They could go a few ways with this. But I will say, of everything that we've talked about today, this definitely feels like that one point on the timeline where we can Leonardo DiCaprio and point at it and we're like, this was the moment the MCU shifted. Because not only did it meet expectations, it exceeded those and expanded the world in a way that we really didn't even think was possible.
Yeah. I agree. Hopefully, the next year of MCU, both Street and Multiverse, just corrects the things that we've been talking about and just gives us that warm, fuzzy feeling. And I think all of it to say that Street Level has a lot more opportunities right now because some of these projects are more Street Level focused.
Yeah.
Especially with something like Born Again coming up.
Yeah. I agree.
It's crazy to say that. The basic Street Level has more opportunity and promise than a multiverse of unlimited opportunity.
Think about this though. What in the Infinity Saga can you point to that says, man, that feels really Street Level? That was peak Street Level.
Nothing.
Civil War.
Civil War is probably the closest thing, but they make that feel so Avengers specific. And the Avengers always felt like, especially in hindsight, that they're bigger than the streets. They're too good for the streets. They deal with world and universal level threats. They don't care about your bad guy.
And I think that's wherein the issue lies for Cap, Brave New World, where ideally you would almost think that Cap is kind of a Street Level character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you were to establish your Street Level, your two aces of Street Level could be Daredevil and Cap if they did it right.
Mm-hmm.
But because you then have Cap be who Cap is this entire time in the MCU, and even Sam, who's done those things alongside Steve Rogers, but then you add someone like Red Hulk, who ideally is just too big of a problem for a Street Level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's ultimately what makes Cap feel a step above.
I almost look at Cap as like a country club kind of hero, right? He's not getting down in the street playing pickup. This man's like, he's going to a club to play, right? He's like, no, I don't get down out there. Like, I'm going to go over here. Do I think they could use that to their advantage for his character? 100%. I would love to see them say, Cap, he's out of his league. Because vibranium ain't it. That's not the answer to everything. It's just not. Are you going to stop Red Hulk? No. But that's a different conversation as we get closer. But again, back to what you said, Spider-Man, Avengers are kind of their own niche.
Yeah.
In subcategory of Universal in a way. So good stuff, though.
So,
Great stuff.
great, fantastic. Before we wrap it up, one final question. We like doing this here. If you're new, our absolutely way too early rating prediction. If it was a movie, I'd say box office, but I'm just gonna say our rating prediction, our absolutely way too early rating prediction for Daredevil Born Again, off the stuff that we know, right? Only off the stuff that we know. We can revisit this when we get a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys feel like is going to be the rating for Daredevil Born Again?
When you average it all up on IMDb, it's going to be 8.3. All episodes will average out to an 8.3.
Going
This man has had a
7-9.
tough choice
7-9.
deciding today. Oh, you had 7-9?
Yep. I feel like it's gonna get downvoted a lot just for people that are salty. I don't know why.
This is literally the MCU. That's like current day MCU effect.
Yeah.
Man, there's not a chance in heck when this was announced that they were acquired that we probably would have said 8 or 7 anything. That would be an easy 9 something.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm gonna give it solid 8.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that if they do it right and they play their cards right, depending on what we've heard so far, it feels like it's going in a right direction. 8 is where it will stand, and it's going to be a solid 8 where we can't poke holes in that 8. Like it's a sturdy 8.
Yeah. There's no like, actually,
Exactly.
no, this is just like, actually,
it's an 8 through and through.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it.